this session of the Employee Benefit Research Institute's third annual Financial Wellbeing Symposium. And for those of you who have been with us all week, we appreciate it. This is our last session, and it's going to be an especially interesting one. I'm Lori Lucas, President and CEO of eBrief, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you, members and guests of the Financial Wellbeing Research Center, to the final session of this three-day series. As you know, the theme of this week's symposium is resilience and adaptation. In essence, we've been talking about how employers have been adapting to today's unique environment when it comes to financial wellness programs they deliver and the way they deliver those programs, as well as the evolving needs of their employees as workers face the challenges of COVID-19.
On their advice on everything from schools to testing.
We have a little background noise.
Dr. Scott Atlas, who has pushed for herd immunity.
David, if you could, thank you, whoever had the background noise muted. One of my favorite stories about adaptation and resilience is the story of the Royal Castle of Warsaw. On October 4th, 1939, Germany ordered that it actually be blown up. In response, Polish museum staff managed to save many of the fixtures and works of art from the castle. And at the end of the war, it was just a pile of rubble. Basically, two fragments of wall was all that was left of the 600-year-old edifice after the war. What was really moving, however, was that the thousands of valuable works of art that had been in the castle had been hidden away. And over time, Polish people from within Poland and abroad actually returned all of the valuables to the castle to restore it to its former grandeur, and it was rebuilt. And now today you can visit it, and it's actually a wonderful monument to Poland and to the resilience of the Polish people. In our final financial well-being symposium session this week, we'll hear about the resilience of employees and their ability to weather the storm in times of crisis, thanks to financial wellness initiatives and other well-being initiatives. And this comes after having heard about our survey, which hopefully many of you were able to hear on Monday, and also about the adapting to a virtual environment, which we talked about on Tuesday. So at this point, I will turn it over to Greg Ward, who will do double duty today. He will not only be our master of ceremonies, but he will actually moderate this upcoming session. So thanks, Greg. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lori. And as I've said all week, I really appreciate how you share the historical realities of things. I've learned to appreciate Pilates, so I got to give that a try. And I have a new appreciation for duct tape. So the Royal Castle, I've got to visit.
You've got to visit it. It's great.
Now I'm intrigued. I'm totally intrigued. But I as well, I want to welcome everybody to our third and final day of the symposium. I'm super excited about today. When we think about COVID-19 and everything that's happened in the last 6+ months, we realize employees more now than ever need help just kind of managing the storm when it comes along. And I'm so excited because today we're going to hear from three wonderful speakers who are going to be speaking from three unique perspectives: the perspective of an employee, the perspective of an employer, and the perspective of a provider. Before I introduce our guests, I do want to go over a couple housekeeping items. The first, as I've said all week, is we want to encourage you to ask questions throughout the session. So remember, the way that you would ask questions is just by hitting that chat button at the bottom of your screen and submitting your questions that way. So that's something I want to encourage you to do throughout the session. And I also want to remind you that at the conclusion of our panel interviews, we're going to be breaking out into 3 breakout sessions so that we can take the information that we hear and can process the information, and we'll have about 20 minutes in our breakouts to kind of put some legs to it. How can we have practical takeaways from the information that's going to be shared? And so you'll want to stick around for those breakout sessions at the conclusion of our panel interviews. So with all of that being said, allow me to introduce our guest. The first is Erlinda Vo. Erlinda is an executive assistant for a global management consulting firm, and she's based out of Chicago. Today, she's going to be sharing her perspective as the beneficiary of financial coaching through her employer's financial wellness benefit. She's going to be joined by Gregory Delap, CEO of the Employee Assistance Professionals Association, or EAPA for short. Greg has been associated with the EAPA since 1978. I was only 6 years old, by the way, in case you were wondering. And he attained his Certified Employee Assistance Professional certification in 1987. He served as president of the board of directors from 98 to 2000. And I believe he's joining us today from Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. Am I saying that right? Wyomissing? So he'll be speaking from the employer's perspective. And then finally, joining us for our discussion is Andrew Lendahl, Executive Director of the Financial Wellness at Morgan Stanley, a 20-year veteran of the industry. Andrew works with corporate clients and organizations to create, implement, and manage financial wellness programs that meet the financial needs of their employees. An accomplished blogger, international author, public speaker, he's most passionate about Morgan Stanley at Work's company mission: when employees thrive, companies thrive too. And he's going to be speaking from the perspective of a financial wellness provider. So welcome to each of you. Erlinda, allow me to start with you. Now, you've had an amazing story recently. So if you wouldn't mind, kick us off just by sharing your story of how you've been able to weather a recent storm in your life.
Yes, thank you so much. Again, I'm Erlinda Vo, as Greg mentioned, and I am an executive assistant for a consulting firm. I work for a senior partner and a global leader for that firm, and I love my job and I love my life. So first of all, just thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to share my perspective with you. I want to highlight that I don't know if employers realize the true depth and impact that an EAP program or EAP can have on their employees' lives. I mean, in theory, it sounds great, and I'm sure that the numbers reflect some impact, but we are actual people with actual lives, and this is something that really impacts us. So I'm honored to be on this panel and sharing my true transformation with you. So my trajectory of my life is forever altered because of a free resource provided by my employer. Not only that, my overall health and well-being has increased tremendously because of financial finesse and the resources and coaching I was given. So I remember starting off at the firm, and I was literally separating from my husband at the time. And if you're listening, you probably know where the story's heading. I did not manage my own finances. My husband managed everything. And when I moved from this 3-bedroom duplex down to a room at a friend's home, I had nothing with me except, I think, a desk and a couple things in storage. So as you can imagine, I was kind of going through life in a daze. And I couldn't believe I was that woman, that woman that let her husband manage all the money. And now I'm facing a divorce, and I was lost, scared, insecure. And the truth is I made good money. I was educated. I had a great job and a career, but I never really managed my own money. But the kicker was I actually made more money than he did. And after the divorce that happened in 2017, I, incurred some debt. So I sought out Financial Finesse, which is the free financial wellness service company that my company provided for me. Okay. Now I was excited because I had somebody to navigate this financial world with me. And to this day, I remember that first phone call. I remember calling Teague, and I straight up said, I am embarrassed, I'm ashamed, and I'm super behind. My finances are a total mess, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I mean, this was challenging, walking zombie, all these emotions flying as when you are going through something like a crisis like this, it's a lot. So he was so gracious with me, and he helped me deal with my numbers, and he never made my numbers mean anything about who I was as a person. He held space so I could authentically look at where I was financially. And he said, that's okay. We all have to start somewhere. So he never judged me, and all of that is great. But I was so blown away that he wasn't like trying to make money off of me. Like there was like all these financial services that are like, I don't know, they sell you insurance and annuity. I don't even know. I was just like, here I am, raw and vulnerable. And, anyways, he was just really great. And so I literally needed help. So what had me seek out this resource for my company was that it was a free resource. And so when I did, he helped me shift my context from being hopelessness to being one of hopeful and optimistic. So through talking with him, I knew I had a pathway and that it would take time, but at least I had some expert help. So over the years, he's helped me navigate the ups and downs, and he keeps holding space for me through the divorce, through the crisis now, like this pandemic. Oh my God, there's real world concerns out there. Like, am I going to have a job? I don't know. Like, what does this look like? It's a lot, and not only did he help me, with like feeling optimistic again, like through my divorce, he helped me with real tactical things like a debt blaster, like you put your numbers in there, right? And a retirement calculator. How behind was I? Like, am I going to be able to, catch up? What does this look like? What do I need to do? Right. So in November 2019, I started tracking my net worth. And I started off with a negative 65,000. And now I am at negative 12,000. Wow. And this was a huge thing. So that was just November 2019. So we're like it's very fast. And actually, sorry, that was 2018. So it's been a year and a half, sorry. And still very fast. I have a ways to go, but I know with my team, I can accomplish anything I set for myself. So while my divorce compelled me to seek help, right, through the resources from my company, when you are lost, confused, and distraught, let's just say your overall well-being diminishes. When life is overwhelming or a crisis is in process, I usually tell people, as I've navigated some of this, right, is to pick one area and win at that area. And so I looked at, well, what resources what do I have? I have nothing. I live in a room in my friend's house. Like, I have a job, right? So what do I have? And so I chose the area of finances, and because I had that free resource available to me. So once we kind of got a structure in place and we identified, what was so with my numbers, where my debt was, where my goals were, like, I didn't really have goals in the beginning because I was like just trying to survive, right? But it just was nice to have somebody available. Okay. So I was talking about overall well-being, and wow, I didn't realize I'd get emotional. I'm sorry. Give me a second. This was just way more than just financial help. And it extends to all areas of your life. And wellness is so key. And by setting up a foundation in my finances, I was able to then translate it into another area and then other areas of my life. And so I wanted to share my picture so that you guys can get a sense of. So this was me, July 6th of 2018. And this is July 2019, this other picture was taken. And if you look, I am, I look at this and it's sometimes hard to believe just the degree of difference, right? That one area of well-being can really translate into all areas of well-being, okay? And this was something that kind of I was able to start to take on after I got my finances kind of sorted out a little bit. So it is a different, I am clearly a different person. I look at that, and that was, when you go through what I went through with a divorce and whatnot, that's what happened. And so I'm just so grateful for the resources that was really provided. Okay. So lastly, I wanted to leave you with the real transformation. Okay. So the real transformation, yes, I've had some wild. I mean, I'm very proud. Okay. I think I've had some wild success in like navigating my finances, some wild success in navigating my health and well-being. But like the real transformation is, I would say, to thine own self be true, right? Like after dealing with some of those areas, can now find my own voice. And, as an assistant, I always put my bosses first. As, when I was married, I always put my husband first, and it was all about his voice and my boss's voice. And so now, for the first time, I am starting to live in my own truth and honoring my voice. And I got to like renew a vision of mine, which is to assist people, help people make a difference. Like, there is like amazingness to be able to have a career you love and to accomplish tremendous goals and navigate crisis and come out on the other end. But there's another thing, to find your power and your voice and living your own truth and honoring that truth. And, I love to assist people in their emotional well-being through essential oils. Like essential oils for me help elevate a person's emotional well-being. And it's something so simple that people can do wherever they are. So I love to share that. So when people come to me and they are dealing with something, or they've seen some of my success or hear about it, I really like to be able to contribute back to people around me to make that difference. Yes. I'm sorry? Oh.
I think we just had some background.
Okay, no problem. And so I just wanted a couple other things is that I love doing vision boards. And so I host a vision board party every year, and I got to do one for my company this year. And it's a little difficult because we're in a crisis, right? But it's so important to have a vision and start to learn who you are so you can fulfill on that vision. So, creating that vision board party for my company and for others around me. And then having events like well-being events using essential oils helps for me to elevate the planet. And I feel like if you can take care of your own self and your own energetic well-being, you get to help elevate the planet by not adding a mass of stuff out there. So I profoundly appreciate the opportunity to share my story. Thanks for your generous listening and for just, all of it, from the resource that I got to being able to share here some of the success that I've had, and then really allowing me to find my voice and to be completely free to be me and to be able to make a difference in the world, which, when you go through something like that I went through, you realize is so important to find that voice and to make a bigger contribution than yourself. So thank you so much. And thanks again for having me.
Well, Erlinda, we thank you for sharing that story. I think it would be understated to say what a beautiful person you are, what a remarkable story you have, and one that I do hope that we're able to echo from the mountaintops. And to, first and foremost, you made that initial step, right? I mean, you picked up the phone, you reached out, you didn't just say, I'm a victim here. And you said, I'm going to take advantage of the benefit that's available to me. And from there, you began a very difficult journey. And that's what I hope we all take away from this, is that there is a point where you had to make that decision to start. And you mentioned things like the emotions and the shame. And we know that that's pretty common out there. And so thank you very much for that. I wanted to have Greg chime in here, because Greg, as you listen to Erlinda, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of a wimp anyway, so my eyes started to water up because I love to see someone make that breakthrough. But the reality, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is not a unique story, is it? I mean, how many people honestly are out there that may be in a similar situation?
There's an awful lot of people out there in this situation, and compliments to you, Erlinda. for what you've done for yourself and through you to others as well. Erlinda's circumstances are unique to her, but the fact that circumstances like this exist are really common, not just after divorce, but after unexpected death, often by suicide, and people, the surviving spouse or partner is left with everything, including trying to figure out how to pay tomorrow's bills, let alone what to do with insurance, what to do with car, what to do with, what do I do with belongings? Do I really own the debt that he or she incurred that I didn't even know about? I will tell you just from family circumstance in the DeLapp family, we had a death by suicide. And the surviving spouse in this case was not aware of almost $300,000 of taxes owed to 2 different states on the home business. I mean, these circumstances are not unusual, but unique to Erlinda are her circumstances. And remarkable story of resilience and adaptation, as Lori Lucas had said, that's what we wanted to talk about. So Erlinda also demonstrated a couple other things that you see in the employee assistance world all the time. People in trouble, and Erlinda didn't ask for this trouble, but people in troubles tend to survive on denial and manipulation, because that's what gets you through. Those are survival techniques. They're not negatives. Those are survival techniques. And it starts with yourself. And I'm sure Erlinda, looked in the mirror literally and made lots of decisions that took on that denial and manipulation and said, I'm going to do things differently. The vehicle to open that door is what's important to have available to employees, and I'll touch on that. And the services available through that vehicle are equally important in order to follow through and make sure that what's offered is something that's reasonable, workable, and in fact does work, and not just a compliance checklist that we offer this, now go make something of it. I also will tell you that, and Erlinda is an example of this, people don't come into employee assistance the first time something went wrong. It took years to get to that point. And so I always take it very seriously on the employee assistance side when someone comes in, figuratively in the door, virtually, phone, text, walk in, however it's done. They're not here because it just happened. They're here because of years of problems that are now all in front and have to be dealt with. So if we could go to the first slide, I think all these hello badges, Erlinda could have picked about half of those and wore them around all day long with her circumstances. And the reason I use this matrix of badges here, the employee walks in the door and says, I have this as a problem. And I guarantee you, from almost 40 years of employee assistance experience, all this other stuff's going on too. It's just not the one that's on the front and center at the moment. I want to mention too, in terms of my own background, before I was in the CEO role of the Employee Assistance Professional Association, I spent 33.5 years with a specialty steel company in HR and employee assistance, occupational health, employee relations. So it's not just the employee assistance side of this. I understand and have lived the ramifications for the employer, and in many cases the union, of what these problems look like. So basically, I just want just a little philosophy real quickly. Employers tend to hire employees from the communities where they operate. I know we all recruit from all over. We source globally. But we tend to hire from the communities where we operate. So if the community has a problem, and there isn't a single community I've ever been to that doesn't have problems, whatever those problems are, they're coming to work every day of the week. They're coming through the gate, they're coming in the office, they're there on the plant or the mill floor every day. So employers have two basic options: ignore that reality exists or do something about it. Obviously, I'm biased. One of the do something about it is an employee assistance program. It's a primary response for what walks in the door every day of the week in the form of your employees. Because employees, all of us, at some point or another, any one of us could be sitting on that side of the table facing into a problem. What COVID-19 has brought about are significant challenges with employees and families, especially around finances. I'll get to some of the other challenges too, but the income has been hit. Expenses have gone up in many, many cases. Disrupted planning toward retirement. Sometimes the retirement's been expedited because of cutbacks and reduction in force. Sometimes the retirement's been stretched out because of market volatility. Rent problems, mortgage problems, evictions, cash flow problems. And I particularly hold on to a quote back in March from Fed Chairman Powell. In March, he reported that 40% of US employees making $40,000 or less were currently not working and did not anticipate that those jobs will be there for them to return to. Just think of the magnitude of effect that 40% of those under $40,000 a year are not working and not likely to return. If that's a primary income in that household, that's a serious problem. If it's a second income in that household, it's a serious problem. And that problem in the form of that employee's spouse, son, daughter, family members coming through the door where you work every day of the week. I don't think we can lose sight of that. Next slide, please. Just very quickly about employee assistance. Most people think of employee assistance as counseling. And I just have to tell you, whether it's my own experience or the experience of thousands of my peers who are out there, it's not just counseling. The consultation role, essential in working with employers on how to generate a response to what the employees are coming through the door with. Tools and guidance, options for the employer on how to respond to the employee. Just as important, actually, to client, the company and the employee, is providing the options to the employee about what to do with his or her issues. So employee assistance isn't just about counseling. The key parts of employee assistance, probably the most underutilized in the HR world, is consultation, developing options that affect solutions. Next slide, please. So what happens when an employee comes in to work with a financial concern? Here's all the different ways money is behind the presenting problem. There's an emotional component of physical illnesses and injuries, especially if they take place on the job. What's behind that very often is finances were pretty tenuous before the illness or injury. Now they're acutely problematic. In fact, may cause that person to not come back to work at all because they have to find some other way to survive. Whether it's workers' comps, looking for absence flexibility, mental health presentations, whether it's divorce, like in Erlinda's case, often it comes through in the form of an employee with anger and threats because domestic issues get played out at work all the time. What's often behind that are financial problems. And all the other things that are out there, we all know that, any of us who've worked in benefits, HR, drug, alcohol, mental health issues, legal, marital, financial, it's all there. But today it's about financial. Someone with a life-threatening illness, money issues behind that, big time. I have sat with employees bedside, hours in one case, a couple days in most cases before they passed. And they're still talking about money, critical issue to be dealt with. Reactions to return to work is seen by many under the COVID guidelines as my health versus my money. New issue most of us didn't anticipate. Where I work at Employee Assistance Professional Associations, we have two folks who travel by rail to work. They're not traveling by rail to work. They won't. So there's transportation issues that cause money as an issue. We're all familiar with 401k loan provisions, and right now hardship withdrawal questions come up all the time. And it's not so much about responding with plan design and what the policies and regulations are. We all know that stuff. And whether the employee knows it or not, what they hear is no for an answer. The problem with no is if I came in your office looking for assistance because I got financial problems, I can't do anything with no. What else can you do? That's where employee assistance comes in. That's where the services through employee assistance, like Erlinda took advantage of. You have to have another response other than no. I don't know how to make that more clear, that in this current environment, no doesn't work very well. And those of us who've been through reductions in force and for cause terminations and different scenarios where someone's going from working to not working within the hour, you know that when you have those conversations with someone, the questions have an edge to them. There's an anxiety behind the questions, and there's an urgency behind the questions. The same thing is applying now in this COVID environment. And what I hear from my peers and employee assistants is there's also an element of fatigue that's kicking in, COVID fatigue, because it doesn't seem to be an endpoint in many people's eyes. And the problems with money, et cetera, and Erlinda is an example that they don't clear up overnight. It takes a while. It takes a lot of dedicated attention to this to make it work, and a serious amount of discipline to make it work. So you've got the 401k question. I've already got my residential loan, I've got my general purpose loan, and now I'm looking for hardship, and the answer is no. And you get this emotional outburst of, it's my money, I need that. And about the worst response then is, well, the policy says. How about something like, look, I can't get you the money. What I can do is have you talk with someone who's got other options, and I want to set that up right now for you. Because you need to talk to someone about this. That's where employee assistance and other services come in. Just today, I was checking in the Reading, Pennsylvania newspaper, the Reading Times, and there's an ad from the YMCA to have your kids come to the Y, and they've set up social distance, et cetera, mock classrooms so that they can do their virtual schoolwork, $135 a week. So even work and productivity right now up against homeschooling is costing money. And in many cases, disproportionately with women, they're not coming back to work at all during this time. Erlinda touched on it, and it's true. If you look at the overall effect of involvement with employee assistance, two things stand out. There's an improvement in overall well-being, and there's an improvement in presenteeism. I'm here, I'm engaged, I'm doing my work because my head's more clear than it used to be. So employers, every day of the week, if you have to, be talking up what is available to employees to assist in this crunch time, this COVID time. Options, solutions, must-haves at this point. Let me, next slide, please. If we could just touch on something here. I'm not going to answer all these questions. I'm going to ask the questions. You're the employer, I'm the employee, and I'm coming into work. I've thought about this for weeks. I finally got up the nerve to start asking questions. I'm a little bit on edge because I know today, not tomorrow, not 2 weeks from today, and I've known about this for a month, that today, if I don't have an answer on the money, my car is getting repossessed. So you know I'm coming into the office with an edge. And I'm saying, I have no money coming in. Where do I start? Can I get unemployment benefits if I'm still working? My hours have been cut. Am I able to get any public health insurance or food assistance if I lose what I have here? Because I know we're cutting back. How do I do that? What if I can't pay my rent? or my mortgage payment or my utility payment. I know plenty of employees who would go home after work, pull the shades down, close curtains. They don't want anybody looking in. They won't answer the phone because they know it's someone asking for money, collecting on bills. They walk to work because they're parking their car at work so it doesn't get repossessed. And these are folks in coat and ties too. This just isn't whatever stereotype we might have here. What if I can't pay my car loan or my credit cards? What do I do? Is it okay to look at my unused credit line on my credit cards as my reserve savings? And you might wonder, why in the world would an employee ask their employer this? Rather than trying to answer that question, read it for what it is. It's a measure of the level of desperation that comes with financial concerns, that they're asking the employer these kind of questions. I can't make my federal student loan payments. What do I do? I didn't pay my Fed taxes that were extended to July 15th. I know they're going to come at me. Can you help me with that? What do I do now? What's this notice I got that says they're going to start taking money out of my pay? Can they do that? Should I take money out of my retirement savings to pay for current expenses? My spouse lost their job. They went to health insurance. Now what do I do? I have the max number of 401k loans already out there. My credit cards are near maxed. I need cash. I have money in that account. I can't touch it. What can you, my employer, do for me? I'm not saying you've got to have a ready-made answer to every one of these questions, but you need a resource to turn to with every one of these questions. Because no, in this environment, with the urgency and anxiety that surrounds COVID-19, no is not an answer that's going to work well with any employee right now.
Thank you, Greg. That's a very poignant statement. And as you said that, I think of all the calls that I've taken as a financial coach, and they are calling because they are looking for answers. And as you said, if they're dealing with money issues, it may be that those are symptoms, but there may be other things behind that. And they can't do anything with no. And so I appreciate that. And Andrew, we're gonna hand the virtual microphone over to you and speak to us.
Right.
As Greg mentioned, these employees can't do anything with no. So what is something that an employer can offer that might be a yes in a situation or a question like this?
Yeah, thanks, Greg and Greg. So firstly, Linda, you should feel really proud of how you've weathered the storm and how you've become so much more resilient going through this difficult time. Anyone who works in the financial wellness industry is really mission driven. It's fair to say all my colleagues, we love these stories. We love these anecdotes. We love to see that finally the program that we've been for so many years trying to get in with employers and employees using are getting such results. And unfortunately, what we've seen now during this whole COVID pandemic, that this has really caused a bridge now and accelerated the need for these programs. We would have wished that these programs would have been adopted a lot earlier, but there's been a lot of interest and reach outs to put these programs in place. And in essence, if I had to look at this and summarize, where things have been and where we are now and where we're going, long before COVID-19 burst into our lives, financial worries were a big cause of employee stress. Now with the pandemic continuing to create uncertainty in the markets and the workplace alike, employees are experiencing a lot more anxiety than usual. While some employees may have returned to the office, others likely still find themselves working from home, trying to concentrate in makeshift offices while children are jumping around them, are taking part in virtual learning classes and growing restless. Work-life separation has become muddied, and the idea of normalcy seems quaint. And not only that, many families are seeing savings accounts dwindle as spouses or partners lose jobs or are forced to take pay cuts. So workers have long had anxiety about their financial lives, whether it's paying off student debt, dealing with emergency expenses, or saving enough to fund a range of financial milestones, from buying a first home to retirement. These worries affect productivity, with, in essence, 3 in 4 employees reporting that their financial stress distracted them from work. So the coronavirus pandemic has only compounded these challenges. Even if your employer, your organization is in a sector or industry that hasn't been hit as hard by unemployment and recession, your employees still have spouses, partners, and family members who may be feeling the strain. In fact, employees' collective ability to focus has been taxed in ways you never could have imagined. There was some research earlier this year that showed 62% of workers report losing an hour a day in productivity because of COVID-19 related stress. 32% say that they're losing more than 2 hours a day of productivity. So coronavirus has really sparked a lot of additional financial stress, where nearly 9 in 10 Americans are feeling some form of financial stress as a result of it. And we know that over 40% of Americans are worried about not having enough money saved during this economic crisis caused by COVID-19. Job insecurity was second among concerns, but over 1/4 of Americans have cited stress related to paying monthly bills such as utilities, rent, or a mortgage. Americans are more pessimistic than usual in their one-year financial outlook, as we find here at Morgan Stanley. And more than 40% have already had to cut expenses to be able to achieve what their financial goals they wanted to have. If we look back prior to COVID, our various research shows that 61% of Americans agree that money is very or somewhat significant source of stress. But prior to COVID, basically the sources that it was causing was either unexplained expenses, paying for essentials, or saving for retirement. So how things have changed a lot during this crisis. And in essence, what it's doing is it's preventing employees focusing on their job as they're focusing on their money. And as Greg mentioned previously, this is impacting presenteeism, right? The people are now focusing on, how do I dig myself out of this financial hole? In the physical environment that we had before, it was absenteeism. People were trying to work out how to solve these financial problems. And in essence, some of the research out in the marketplace estimates that the financial stress is costing employers anywhere from $250 to $500 billion in lost productivity. And when I first came into the industry here in the US, I moved across from New Zealand, and I was meeting with employers. So about 5.5 years ago, it was very interesting because employers saw financial wellness as being too paternalistic. Why are we helping people budget? Why are we helping people with their debt management? The pendulum has very much swung the other way now. Now it's the right thing to do. And it's swung even further. Now financial wellness is a total wellness consideration. It's right up here with mind, body. Now we have wallets being an important aspect of every virtual benefit that employers are now considering, these 3 pillars of wellness. And so what we know from our research is that 74% of employees believe that it's important for an employer to offer financial wellness benefits. Earlier this week, we saw from the results in the EBRI survey that it validates some of our internal research. We also know that a good financial wellness program helps increase that focus, the work satisfaction, loyalty, which in turn improves employee retention and productivity. These things are true during the best of times. During a crisis, whether it be the crisis that Linda experienced in her life, whether it be the pandemic now, financial wellness programs are even more important. And as a result, we have noticed that this pandemic has accelerated employers making a decision to implement a financial wellness program, which is keeping us relatively busy. So what we've actually seen is by offering holistic financial wellness benefits, employers can help reduce, as I mentioned before, stress, improve retention, engagement, set themselves apart in the marketplace from their peers. The one myth that's out there is that, only people on lower income levels are struggling. Employees at all income levels are financially stressed. Financial stress impacts all employees' productivity. Employees are looking to employers, again, the Embry research showed that, for solutions. They're looking for diverse financial needs. Employers want to have, to be able to offer these needs to their employees. And employees are looking for clear communication about financial wellness benefits, and to know where to start and what are all of the valuable resources that their employer has to offer. So where does Morgan Stanley at Work fit into all of this? And in essence, what we do at Morgan Stanley is creating leading workplace financial solutions for organizations and their employees, combining personalized advice with modern technology. And our mantra is this, and one that I live by: when employees thrive, companies thrive too. But I'm going to take a bit of creative license here, and I'm going to change it a little bit for our discussion today. When employees thrive and their families thrive, companies thrive too. Financial wellness is a family-level solution program. It's not just about the individual. It impacts everyone in your household, as we're experiencing now with the 35 million people that have gone on unemployment or are underemployed currently. It is touching all of us in some way or fashion. Our job as a financial wellness provider, our job as Morgan Stanley Financial Wellness, is to help build financial confidence and resilience through insightful advice, thoughtful education, and cutting-edge technology across a work solution suite. And so financial wellness, from our perspective, we've taken it to the next level. 18 months ago, we actually relaunched our program, and we looked at what are the areas that every employee and every employer needs assistance with to have a robust financial wellness program to help propel people up that economic ladder and to be able to democratize access to education, to advice, to guidance. So we've created a customizable solution for organizations to empower their employees by making their finances a source of wellness and not a source of stress. What we want to do is help employers enhance their financial wellness to enable their workforce to do their best work. We want to help employers to have a better business. And why it's important to address the issue of having a financial wellness program. It's about allowing your giving your workforce less financial stress so that they can be productive, they can be engaged, it can be a healthier organization. But more importantly, it's better for your employees. No two employees' financial needs are the same, which is why what we're doing now with our program is offering a range of solutions designed to address the spectrum of topics your employees require to meet their financial goals. And by improving the financial well-being of an employee, that provides them with that opportunity to weather the storm, to have that resilience. And what we've identified is there is no magic bullet to solve this. You have employees that are in different areas of their lives, in different parts of that financial journey. If we take Linda, for example, if we surfaced up purely content or a video, this is what you need to do to help you. She was not in the right frame of mind at that point in time. The stress that she was under, the emotional stress that she was under. Financial coaching was really the right solution for her. She could speak to a friendly voice. She could speak to a confidant. She could speak to someone that would guide her. So in essence, some of the work that we're doing is creating solutions that take a multi-channel approach, where high tech meets high touch support, to encourage employees to take control and to get support they need, wherever they are on their wherever they are on their financial journey. So we're marrying up technology with human advice. We have a digital portal whereby we provide a digital experience beginning with a financial wellness assessment. We evaluate what their financial fitness is like. We match those results with personalized education and resources and reward them along the way through gamification, through badges, through trophies to keep them engaged. We couple that with financial education. So we're helping employees make better decisions through engaging employee education. In the old days, it used to be on-site seminars. When I'm saying in the old days, prior to March. Now it's all virtual, and we're covering a range of webinars on various financial wellbeing topics. Our education modules cover specialized segments, whether it be considerations for parents and of children with special needs, whether it be like Linda going through a divorce, women in wealth, and in another very popular seminar that we're looking at now is creating content around the recent racial injustice protests. Many companies have committed to addressing the economic inequality, which is another crisis here within the US. And as such, we're receiving requests from seminars to be targeted to specific ethnic groups, and we've stepped up the challenge and created them, and these are being rolled out this fall. So we've gone through the digital aspect. We've gone through the financial education. Now we need that human advice, that human contact, delivering actionable guidance unique to each employee to help personalize goals through whether it be one-on-one consultations with a dedicated Morgan Stanley financial advisor or a financial coach. And just like Linda said before, she felt really comfortable from the perspective of she wasn't being sold. And that's the beauty of financial coaching. They are unbiased. They're talking on a series of topics, whether it be helping you set up a budget, whether it be helping you set up emergency savings. So the beauty of having a multi-channel program which touches all of these pieces is that it addresses an employer's entire demographic. So in summary, and I'll flip through some slides just to highlight some of the stats that we've collected during this time. But in summary, we've seen that there's become a more urgent need for financial wellness. And this is where we've seen a lot of outreach within especially industries that are most impacted by the pandemic, such as healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. They have had employees that have been furloughed the hardest. So they're looking how to address this as part of the furlough employees that have recently been brought back as well. It's estimated that almost 70% of employees have lost income due to the pandemic. They need help to get them back on their feet. So this is why we've had a lot of outreach from companies and those three industries in particular. As far as the approach, financial wellness continues still to be the hot topic. And it's very evident in the research that every survey findings were reported during the session earlier this week. So with that said, that's my preamble to the slide deck. But what I wanted to just quickly rattle through the slides that you have in front of you. We did earlier this year, we did a lot of COVID impact surveys and research, and we generated a lot of key learnings from this research that we did. A quarter of respondents will not have enough money to get through the COVID crisis. That has been visibly seen, whether it be in the surveys that are coming out on a regular basis and articles in the media. The people are hurting, and it's a whole family level approach that needs to be taken to address COVID-19 and the crisis and the financial stress that everybody is coming across. And David, if we can move to the next slide, please. as I mentioned before, we have this digital portal that provides a financial wellness assessment. And from that financial wellness assessment, we are able to put people on a path towards a customized journey to achieve their financial goals and attend to their financial issues. If you look at the bar, which is the longest, from the data that we've been receiving from our portal, from our clients during COVID, 76% feel extremely stressed regarding their financial wellness and their financial situation. And then a high in the 50s%, we're getting a lot of participants who are needing either a financial plan, a financial coach, or the tools that we're providing today. We're seeing increased amount of traffic to their 401k information into their programs to find out how we can leverage our 401k to get through this because of a lack of emergency savings. There's been greater requests for thought leadership. There's been requests for extended programs, more seminars, more content, and we've seen an outstanding increase in the amount of webinars being attended. So with that said, I know we've got 5 minutes to the end of the hour. I'm going to cut the deck short here and pass it back to Greg to allow some questions from the audience. So thank you for listening to me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. As you can see, there's so much information and interest in the subject matter that honestly we could probably talk for a few more hours about it. But I do appreciate that with the few minutes that we have left, there's been some great questions that have come in. And Erlinda, I want to take the first question back to you. Something you said that you had access to this program and it was a free benefit to you. And the question came in, if I'm going to give you a challenge to answer this question in 60 seconds or less, how important was it that it was a free benefit as opposed to a benefit that you would have had to maybe pay for to have access to it?
At the time, I would not have been able to do it. I literally, the mindset and the days I was in with the stress and the crisis and trauma, I would not have been able to even know if I had enough money to be able to buy a service like that. So that was tremendously key for me to be able to step into that arena. Now, if I was in a normal state, it could be different, but in a crisis or something like that, when you actually need that, free was actually better for me.
Good. Yeah, and we've seen that could be a potential barrier for anyone in a situation similar to yours. Thank you, Erlinda. Another question that had come up, Greg, for you. I think we see that there's people who are desperate for help, but the question came in, how do we get them to maybe seek out the help earlier? Is there a way to preempt this so that it doesn't get to a point where it's so desperate? Any thoughts on how we might get people to even start building the resilience before they end up in a situation like this?
So if the person asking the question came from HR or benefits, it's a question we ask on every subject. How do we get the people to the wellness programs earlier? How do we get them to use their benefits on the health side earlier? There's no magic answer unique to employee assistance or these financial issues. Constant putting the information in front of people constantly so that when that moment hits that they need it, they know where to go. To expedite this and intervene earlier probably takes discussion. And, I don't need a show of virtual hands, but how many employers represented here take the time in routine meetings to talk about financial wellness? We don't do a lot of that. We may do more of that after COVID.
Yeah.
But we don't do a lot of that. So there's touch points. Someone in trouble with money is going to show up in payroll in the form of cash advances, in questions about deductions. It's going to show up in benefits. Is there another way to handle my benefits? Is there another way to handle co-pays? Is there another way to handle the the maxes on the plan design. If it's a 401k, it's about hardship withdrawals, second, third loans.
Yeah.
And not at all surprising to see that employees come back and say to their manager, I need more money. I can't
Right.
work here doing this.
Right.
Every one of those is not just a red flag, it's like painting the wall red. Pay attention to these things. People don't ask those questions when things are going well.
Good, good. And that's what we want to do as we go into our breakout sessions. We want to address these questions in a practical way. So Greg, Erlinda, Andrew, thank you for your participation on the panel. And for the audience, we're going to go ahead and have each of you separate into the breakout groups. As a reminder, you'll have about 15 to 18 minutes to discuss a series of questions that each of your panelists will be your group moderators. So what we'd like to do when you get that 60-second reminder, panelists, go ahead and finalize your thoughts. And we're looking for 2 or 3 key takeaways as to what an HR professional or an employer can do to basically help the Erlindas of the world so that collectively we're improving the financial health and productivity of the American workforce. So let's go ahead and do that now. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had some constructive conversation in each of your respective discussion groups. We're going to go around the room, the virtual room, and just hear from each of our groups as to what are maybe 2 or 3 key takeaways that they, based on the information that was shared by the panel, that as an organization, eBRI, as an industry, in financial wellness and well-being, that we want to do and see continue to happen in order to promote and have Erlinda's story be everybody's story. So Greg, I'm gonna start with you.
Okay, very quickly, just before the eBRI and Zoom gods cut us off, right in mid-sentence, let me comment said at the end that would employees actually be willing to disclose their level of debt to their employer, especially in the context of employment settings where credit checks are part of the route of entry? I think we know the answer to that. Not very likely. But at the same time, there's an analogy. Health risk appraisals ask an awful lot of questions that are pretty personal. It doesn't go to the company other than aggregate. It goes to the vendor who's retained to do that. Maybe there's an angle there. Challenge was brought up as one of the concerns. The eBRI study released earlier in the week clearly points to need. It also clearly points to employers struggling with how to meet the need. And so the challenge is big. How do we go from what we can see with just using eyes and ears and diagnose with those eyes and ears, and how do we respond? Very important point raised that we've all been conditioned to not talk about money from young kids on. You don't talk about money. You don't ask what people make. You try not to compare because you're not supposed to know. But we don't talk about money. So given an opportunity to fill a room full of people and say, okay, let's talk about money, it's going to be crickets. Very important point too. Can we take advantage of the environment we're in now where just about everybody is in some virtual platform to communicate with others? Is there a way to parlay that virtual platform era that we're in into getting information out to people in ways we've not done before about finances and financial wellness? And that leads to the tangible suggestion is there a way to mirror what goes on in the 401k world with auto enroll, where you have to opt out. Is there a way to do that with financial wellness? To auto enroll in a way that you have to go out of your way to opt out of not participating in financial wellness? The times call for things like that. It's worth looking at. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg. Very constructive. I know, Lori, you had taken some notes for Linda's group. Lori, you want to share with us a couple key takeaways from our discussion?
Yeah, building on what Greg just said, kind of using the current environment as a, kind of a leverage for the future, and having people realize that, we're in a crisis now, but personal crises always will often happen that are not as universal as the pandemic, but building awareness now that these resources exist and that even when it's a personal crisis, they're available. Erlinda's story clearly resonated with all of us, and she shows that peers can be used as seeds for helping others find financial help, and that you could leverage people who have experienced financial help to get others to realize that they can get it before they're totally desperate, and it can help them earlier on. And then finally, Erlinda mentioned that she felt it was easier for her to confide in a third party. She was less concerned about privacy concerns than if it had been directly her employer. So I thought that was an interesting takeaway as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that summation. Andrew, we'll turn over to you, find out what you took away from your group's discussion.
Great, thank you. And in my breakout session, a lot of my fellow market participants were in that breakout. So, the thing that were highlighted in particular was the importance of being more preemptive and having the ability, developing a program to get people on the right track before they actually hit those roadblocks and those challenges. So getting a program up sooner rather than it being a reactive type solution. One of the other things that was highlighted was the point that Linda raised about if it wasn't for free, I don't think I would move forward. And I think this is quite important, especially for all of us who are offering these financial wellness programs, is how do we reach people? How do we establish a pricing model or a cost that doesn't turn people away and embraces people rather than pushes them away because of the aspect of cost. The other thing that was brought up was that would be interesting to learn more about is having a medical or a therapeutics expert talk about the science between that correlation between physical, emotional, and financial health, because this is where we are seeing the impact, and there is a lot more information being reported about that. Also, what was raised was what would be beneficial to learn more about and talk more about is looking at the trends of how employers are thinking through the segments impacted by COVID. In particular, if there's the parents are at home, is it that, for example, the mum is doing most of the child care because the daycare is closed? What impact is that making on the family financially, emotionally? Also from an ethnic perspective, the different demographics, the different inequalities that we're experiencing regardless, how we're getting some more trends and having a closer look. So that's some information that was requested. And then, but last but not least, when it comes to the EAP service, are there gaps in the EAP service, insights or trends that we should be looking at, whereby complementing, say, a financial wellness program or a provider with the EAP service to work in tandem together to be able to make sure that there's a holistic, robust program delivered? So those were some of the takeaways from our group. So thank you for listening.
Absolutely. Well, as you can see, there's there's certainly been progress, but yet there's so much more area for us to grow. And I'm going to say perhaps the most cliche thing that you've heard all week, and that's simply this: we are all in this together. All of the stakeholders, the employers, the employees, the providers, we have to circle the wagons and get around this collectively for the benefit of the end users and the individuals that need that. So thanks to everyone that has participated in the entire week worth of discussions, talking about how the technology can help leverage what we're learning from the survey, and obviously what we need to continue to do in terms of resiliency and helping to bounce back from these things. So again, I want to thank all of the funders that make this possible, for Lori and her staff, for everything that you did to make this week symposium a success. And just to allow you, Lori, to have a final word before we say farewell to the symposium, the 2020 Financial Wellbeing Symposium.
Yeah, let me add my thanks to all the funders, everyone who participated, the speakers today and throughout the week, and especially to Greg Ward. You did a fantastic job guiding us through the week. I think we ended on a real high note. It was a great ending to a very interesting week. And we have more coming up for the rest of the year. We will have our survey published in the next few weeks, and looking forward to doing some different cross sections of the data and seeing even more results. We also have, I want to draw your attention to the American Savings Education Council meeting that is going to be on financial wellness in times of crisis also, where we'll not only be looking again at this survey, but we'll be contrasting it with our workplace wellness survey. That is an employee survey. And we'll have some very good speakers for that day as well. So look on our website for the agenda for that. That's on October 14th. And then of course we have our policy forum coming up towards the end of the year. And also be on the lookout. Once we get our financial wellness database populated, which hopefully will be very soon, we'll reach out to have a meeting with our members of the Financial Wellness Research Center to begin mining that data. So keep your fingers crossed, and we'll hopefully be reaching out to you very soon on that as well. But thank you all again. Terrific meeting. Great working with you all, and have a great weekend.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.